is parents and families and supporters of folks in residence, or I can also do some off-campus housing questions as well, but that's what we're going to be doing the next 45 minutes or so. So why don't we go ahead and get started. Hi everybody, my name is Brian Cunha. I am the Director of Student Housing and Residence Life here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. All of our housing on this campus is owned and operated by the University of Toronto. Everyone who works in residence, all the people that you saw coming in, we are all University of Toronto employees. And we operate about 550,000 square feet of housing here on campus with about just over 1,500 students living on campus. So firstly, I want to thank you. Today and yesterday were our two move-in days. Yesterday we moved in about 750 people. Today we have around the same amount, 750 people moving in. We know that the traffic was there's some congestion and there's some lineups and a bit of time, so just thank you for your patience. And thank you for being so kind to all of my staff and volunteers while they're keeping the energy up. So thank you. This is obviously, we take this very seriously because this is a very important milestone in your student's life. This is a day that they're probably going to remember for a long time. So we really, really try to make this day as special as possible for them. I want to show you a little video. This is the move-in and part of orientation from last year. So you get a glimpse of what your student is going to be experiencing today and moving in through the weekend. Great, thanks, Sean. So if you notice in the video, there was a couple of clips of the gym with lots of people in those seats. That's what we call welcome home. We do that tonight. We take everyone in residence and bring them to the gym, and we give them an orientation of residence. We have performers and folks who get them hyped up and excited to live here. But what I do when I introduce everyone at Welcome Home is I start with a little bit of I guess it's a game, but I want to find out who traveled the furthest and who traveled the shortest distance to get here. So I'm going to play that game with you because I'm curious and maybe a little nosy. I want to know where everyone's from. So who thinks that they traveled the furthest to get here today? Where are you from? Vancouver. Okay. Saskatchewan. A little closer.
Paris, France.
Paris, France. A little further. I think Paris, France is the furthest so far. Shanghai in China. Yes.
Singapore.
Singapore. I think Singapore is a little further. Maybe.
Lagos, Nigeria.
Lagos, Nigeria. How long is the flight?
Well,
15 hours?
About 30, 24, 26.
26 hours. Anyone travel longer than 26? Okay. Shortest distance. Brampton. Right next door. Back over here. Brampton. Etobicoke. I think Etobicoke, I think you're maybe tied. Brampton and Etobicoke right next door. Where?
Square.
Square one, Mississauga, finally. There we got one. Good for you. I'm sorry about the 10-minute drive that you had today. I hope it wasn't too much for you. Maybe you can talk to our friends who came from Lagos who can give you some perspective on the travel, but thank you. I do this at Welcome Home as well. One, just to get people chatting, but also to give some perspective of our communities here. We have people from all over the world who live in residence. About 45% of our students in residence are international students. And so we work really, really diligently to make sure that everyone who comes and lives with us feels at home and feels as if they belong. But it's also an incredible opportunity for your students to meet people from all over the world who see things differently, who have different views and different ways of life. It's an incredible experience for them to have here in residence. Having said that, while we manage housing and a lot of the work that we do is around the facility and the buildings, one of the major pieces that we drive is community. We think that community is very, very important, especially when it comes to your students moving into their first year of university. And so living in a community is everyone's responsibility to contribute to that community. What we do is we try to be the stewards of these communities, to build these students up so that they can learn the skills to move out and do whatever is best for them. Continue on to university, graduate, campus, get a job, learn how to clean, learn how to deal with the conflict, learn how to deal with their health, with their mental health. Those are all things that we do, and we do that as a community, and we support each other as a community. Something that we hold really, really strong and true to our hearts. To give you a perspective of who lives here at UTM in residence, we have 1,503 undergraduate students that live with us. 95 of the students who live on campus in residence are student staff. They're employed by our department. And we train them. We actually just finished training. We trained them for 2 full weeks of an intensive training program. A lot of them are the ones that you met when you checked in. And I'll talk about those in a minute. We also have families and graduate students that live on campus, a smaller population, but we do have capacity for them. And then 6 of our professionals, so those are professional staff that have university degrees, often master's degrees, who work and live in residence and support our resident students. So 6 of those are live-in professionals. Oh, sorry. So I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of residence. I think most people would imagine one of the major benefits of residence is that you don't have to wake up so early to go to class. It's easy to get to class and it's close. That's an incredible benefit for sure. There's actually some more tangible benefits that I want to share with you. And this is backed by some of the research that we've done in student housing here in Canada. Students who live in residence in their first year are more likely to participate in extracurricular activities. They're more likely to report a more positive perception of campus life. They're more satisfied with their university experience overall. Students who live in residence report more growth and personal development. Students in residence engage more in interactions with peers and faculty. And this one is a really important one to us. Students who live in residence in their first year, this is all students, but in particular, especially international students, are more likely to persist to graduation. The reason we think that happens, and what we know of, is that students who live in residence find community, and they get to know people, they get access to resources, and they ask for help. So that's a really, really important piece for us. Your students are not just closer to campus, they're not just safe here, because they are, but they're also more likely to persist to second year and to graduation. And we like to think that's because of the support we give them. In transitioning to university, you might know this already if you have a student who's already moved to university or college and you've kind of experienced these transitions. But just to share a little bit about what we see when students move into residence and transition to university. First, they move in. That's what's happening now. That's the first transition. We often will see some tears and see some growing pains when students move in, but they tend to get very comfortable really quickly. And they learn what living alone is like, what living with people is like, living away from home, living in a different country, going to school. Then we move them through. So when they are in residence and they start to learn a little bit about how to navigate the world, how to do their dishes, how to do laundry, how to navigate a conflict, how to seek support, how to study, how to take care of themselves, how to sleep. All of these things are things that we teach them while they're moving through residence. And our job, while we would love them to continue to live in residence with us moving forward, we know that not all students do. And so we want to make sure that they are prepared so that when they move out of residence, that they can go off and live on their own and they can be self-sufficient. So that's really those transitions that happen in your first year. And then they move out. These transitions are influenced by, obviously, the situation, the self, support, and strategies. And support is underlined because that's what we do, and I'm hoping that's what also you're going to do. And that's part of why I wanted to explain some of the things that happen in residence so you are aware. So if your student comes to you and says like, hey, I'm trying to navigate this problem, or I'm struggling with this, I don't really know what to do, you can be like, oh yeah, I remember that Brian guy said that you should do this. And typically, and the easiest way that they can navigate any issue at university at all is to talk to their residence Dawn. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who those people are. Before I do that, we have a really, really incredible opportunity for your students to participate in. We have UTM orientation. You'll see the campus is alive with activities. Our orientation program has something for everybody. Every sort of person, every identity, any interest, UTM orientation is for them. And that's the space where they're really going to get to know people, get involved, find their crowd. So I really encourage you to encourage your students to attend those orientation events. That's happening all this weekend, right before classes begin. You can just Google UTM orientation and it'll come up and you'll see a schedule of all the many things that happen on campus. Sean here is leading all of that. His team has done some incredible work, so I really want to highlight that important opportunity for your students to take advantage of. So some things for parents and families to consider. You've already thought about these things, I'm sure. They're leaving home, but leaving for a new home. We want to make this a home for them. This is not just a dorm that they're going to stay in. We really take the responsibility seriously to make sure that they feel like they belong and they feel at home and comfortable with us. However, living in a residence room is going to be a little different than living at home. So recognizing that transition, we support them through that. Managing freedom is something that a lot of first-year students often have to navigate. Perhaps you have a student who has been living abroad already before and going to an international school and is familiar with this. And perhaps you have a student who's never lived alone or never even slept outside of their home at all, ever before. We have all those types of students here. So recognizing that managing a freedom is going to be a challenge and going to be something new for them. Those are also expectations that you can set with them. If you expect them to call you every day while they are living in residence, you should ask them about that and tell them and make that expectation. But I will say, don't take offense if they don't. Because so much happens here and it gets really busy and students often forget to contact home. So make sure that you set those expectations with them, that you want to know what's happening with them, what's going on. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that too as well in a bit. They will experience changing relationships with family and friends. A lot of first-year students come to university thinking like, I'm going to keep all the friends I had from high school. Nothing is going to change. I'm going to keep in contact with everyone. That's not always the case. Things change, and that's okay. And so recognizing that transition is coming is important. And that goes with relationships with family as well. If you're used to living with your child or your student on a regular basis, you're not going to see them as much. So set some expectations with them on what you expect moving forward. Change in frequency of interactions, as I mentioned. Academics will be more demanding. Congratulations that you were able to get your student into the top university in Canada, one of the top universities in the world. That academic rigor comes with some challenge. And so your student might experience some academic struggle. That's common. There are more resources than I can possibly list for you right now on how to support these people and how to support these students. And we are often begging for students to take these resources. These resources are not packed full with long waiting lists. These resources are begging students to come because they want to support. So if you have your student come to you and say like, I'm really struggling with academics, there's nothing I can do about it, you can be like, oh, I think there is actually something you can do about it. Maybe you should talk to your residence Dawn. Maybe you should try to talk to your faculty member, but encouraging them to go and seek those resources is important. Time management and stress is going to be something that a lot of students learn in their first year. Living alone, learning how to do their laundry, making sure that they're washing their dishes, making sure that they're bathing on a regular basis, getting good sleep. These are all things that take time to learn, but with our support, I think they can do quite well. And then meeting people with different identities, as I mentioned. We're an incredibly diverse campus, and we're an incredibly diverse resident system, which is to our benefit. And so recognizing that they might meet people that they've never met before, people from places that they've maybe never heard before, and people who have opinions that they've never heard before. But that's good. That's good. We want to expose them to as many people as we can, and so that they can move off and be global citizens in the world. I want to talk about the UTM resident staff because I'm really, really proud of the work that they do. This is all of our staff here, including our student staff. We have about 100 staff that work in residence. And here are the different categories of staff that we have. We have professional staff. So we have about 20 professional staff, all U of T employees, many with full degrees, master's degrees, who work in residence to support the residence system. Some of those folks are live-in professionals. Those live-in professionals participate in a 24-hour, 365-day on-call. So there's always people on call and ready to support anything that happens in residence. And those are our live-in professionals. We have 6 of those. We have our residence dons, and our residence dons are essentially the student leaders who are the jacks of all trade. Every student who lives in residence has a residence don that lives in the community that they live in. So it might be on their floor if they're in Oscar Peterson Hall. It might be in their tower, which is in Roy Ivor, but every single student has a don that's close by. That don is responsible for meeting every single one of their students, having one-on-ones with them and documenting those one-on-ones, doing rounds at night just to check in on students, make sure everything's going well, managing conflict mediation, any type of support. Your residence don is the person to go to. Our residence dons don't know everything about the university, but they know exactly where to send someone to get that information. So they know how to transfer people around and say, okay, you want to talk to the registrar's office, here's how you do it. So talking to your residence don is a really important thing to remember. Our resident services assistant, we have a resident services desk, similar to a hotel desk if you're familiar, where you can rent out supplies like cleaning supplies, board games. You can ask questions generally about residents. You can pay fees. You can do all these things in our residence desk at Oscar Peterson Hall, which is our main hub. And we have resident student staff, service assistants who work there. And then in residence education, we have a residence education unit in our department. Residence education facilitators are folks that every first-year student has a residence education facilitator. Their job exclusively is to do academic programming. They do academic workshops on how to study. They do specific academic workshops on specific subjects. So those are opportunities that are completely free to our resident students and available. And then our LLC program facilitators on the living learning community. So if your student is part of a living learning community, that's a community that's tied specifically to a faculty. And we have a faculty member that also is part of that community. They don't live in residence, but they do faculty field trips, they do coursework. All that happens in that living learning community. So our resident support, as I mentioned, our residence dons are available. Those are the people that you want to send your students to if there's any issues whatsoever in their university experience. As I mentioned, we have on-call staff. So our student staff are on call, we have professional on call, we have senior staff on call, and that's at all times. In residence, we are open, we're always running 365, 24 hours a day. So we have quite an operation here that we support. And of course, this is just residents. So we also have campus safety, who are special constables, who are also always on patrol, on duty at all times. In residence, we have trained mental health and crisis professionals that support our students through crisis work, if that might be at night when a student is dealing with a mental health crisis, or that could be sort of an acute mental health crisis that they're experiencing because maybe they didn't do well on an exam. So we have all those supports embedded into residence. And we also have a specialized student support unit within my department, and that unit is focused specifically on students that are at risk of any sort of issue. So if they have a mental health issue, if they have an escalated conflict, those are all things that unit specifically focuses on. So lots and lots and lots of support in residence. As I mentioned, our residence education unit, these are the living learning communities that your student might live in. If they don't live in a learning community, that's totally fine, but these are the communities there. And then we also have a residence curriculum. So any of the programming that we do, any of the things that we teach your students in residence doesn't just come randomly. This is built over about 10 years of a residence curriculum that we have built to sort of decide and figure out what students need to learn when they're in residence. So that could be anything from dealing with a conflict to how to study to washing dishes and doing laundry. So these are all things that are embedded in our residence curriculum that are pushed out by our residence dons. All of our student staff exist for a reason. We find that peer support is far more effective than professional to student support. And what I mean by that is we find that students are far more likely to seek support or ask questions or feel more comfortable talking about what they're going through with someone who's maybe just a little older than them, someone who's gone through it just before them, rather than talking to someone like me. So that's why we have our student staff, because we find that they build community a lot easier than maybe we would if we lived in residence. As I mentioned, we're here 24 hours a day, 365. We do close, the university does close. They close over the holiday break. In Canada, the holiday break is at the end of December into the beginning of January. While the university closes, residence doesn't close. We do ask students to move out of residence, and if students want to live in residence over the winter break, they just have to notify us and apply. We don't charge to live in residence over the winter break, and while it's a little quieter, there's still an opportunity for your student to live with us. So if your student isn't planning to go back home over the break because maybe the flight's a bit too expensive, that's fine. They can live with us and we can support them in residence. And we also do programming over the break as well to ensure that there's something for them to do. I want to mention FIPPA, which is a privacy act that we follow here at the University of Toronto. This privacy act basically doesn't allow us to share private information out to anyone but the person that we're dealing with. So in residence, all of the students who live in residence are above the age of 16. I know that sounds young, but they're all above the age of 16, which means that they all have, we treat them as adults. And so we will not contact you if something happens to your student. We can't even tell you if the student lives in the building. So if you call our front desk and you say, hi, I want to speak to my son, Brian, he lives in OPH, we train our front desk to say, I'm sorry, we actually can't verify that person even lives in the building. And we do that to protect the privacy of our residents. And I'm telling you that so that you know that you won't be able to get information from us through that way. It's the same as if you contacted the registrar's office and said, hey, I'd like to see my son Brian's grades from the fall semester. They're going to say, we can't send that to you. I'm sorry. You'll have to go through your student. So just trying to set some expectations of what this looks like. I often get questions from parents on like, well, what if something major happens? Like, what if my student goes to the hospital? Will you call me then? We actually will not call parents if the student goes to the hospital. We will only do that in very escalated cases if the student is unable to contact their family. If your student goes to the hospital because they twist their ankle, my resident staff will not call you to notify you. The hospital might not even call you to notify you because they're over the age of 16. It's important that you make that expectation with your student to say, if something happens, let me know. Again, like I said, there's always extenuating circumstances to this kind of thing. So if I feel like we are at risk or the student is at risk and you need to know, we'll make that determination. But generally speaking, we don't inform family members if a student goes to the hospital, if there's a concern, if they miss a program or they're not showing up. We don't check in on our students. We don't actually walk into the door and say like, okay, it's 9 p.m. Or you make sure you're in your bed because you're going to sleep. You have a class tomorrow. We don't do that. They have to learn that on their own, and we'll support them in that. And there's of course times where a residence don will notice, be like, I haven't really seen this person around. What's going on? And then they'll investigate. But we're not doing checks on a regular basis. So I want you to know that. Off-campus housing, so my department also manages off-campus housing for our students here at UTM. If you're not familiar with Canada or Ontario, there's often a narrative around a housing crisis, and while we do have a housing crisis here, while our vacancy rate in Mississauga is quite low, we actually see that most students are able to find housing in Mississauga pretty quickly. We do have upper year spaces in residence. If you were moving into Arundel or Roy Ivor today, you might have seen a building that's going up, a construction site with 2 cranes. Our hope is that that's a residence building. Our hope is that it's done in 1 year so that we can put more first years there and then more upper year students in our townhouses in residence. However, we don't have enough space for the demand for upper year housing. And typically that search starts in January, which seems super early. Most people start looking for their next place in January, and that's also when we put out our application to live in residence for your upper year. I think we have about 15 minutes or so for questions. I think I went through that quicker than I thought I would, but are there any questions about any of the things that I mentioned or any of the things I didn't mention about residence or about off-campus housing? Yes.
You mentioned that you encourage them to move out. So I just wanted to know their properties, they can have computers and all. What happens to that?
The winter break?
Yes.
So the question is about when they move out over the winter break, what do they keep? What do they take with them? Anything that they keep in their residence will be locked and secured and fine, but they won't be able to access it. So if they are going home over the winter break, most people take enough of like clothes and their laptop and things like that, but you can leave all of the personal items in the room. We just lock the room. The reason we ask students to move out is because the university is closed. And so we want to reduce the amount of students living in residence if possible. So if your student wants to, we're going to encourage your student to go home because it's a 10-minute drive. But let's say a student is from Singapore and they're like, well, I can't go home. That's fine. They can live in residence. But if they choose to go home, they can leave stuff in the room and it's locked and totally fine. Yes.
Yes, how are you like the waiting list, like when there's students are on the waiting list, is
Currently?
yeah, currently, right?
So the question is around waiting list. So we do have a waiting list of first-year students who are non-guaranteed first-year students to live in residence. And what that means is we have a residence guarantee that if you apply by a certain date, and you're a direct entry from high school, we guarantee you residence. But there are a group of people who don't fall into that. If you're on the wait list, you should have a wait list number. We give you the wait list number so that you know the likelihood of how long it's going to take you to get into residence. Typically, we exhaust our wait list in the fall. So what happens is, on move-in day, while we hope and expect for everyone to move in, we have no-shows that don't come into residence. Once those no-shows don't come in, then those spots become available. We also have people who decide this isn't for me and end up leaving. So the turnaround of spaces do happen. It depends where you are on the wait list. But again, like I said, in my time, we've always exhausted the wait list by about November or so, which is, I know, challenging. That means, okay, what about now until November? That's the difficult part, is finding housing there. But if you want some support, you can talk to me after and we can look at that. Yeah. Yes.
What's the general policy for residency? Is it into, or in, out? What's the general policy?
Sure. A question around general policies of residence. So we do have community standards that we ask our students to abide by. Those are all available on our website, and those are just the general sort of rules of residence that we have. We do not have any curfews in residence. We don't do check-ins on students. Our guest policy is pretty lax. We don't have students who have to sign in for their guests. It's the responsibility of the community to make sure that they're monitoring their guests at all times. We do ask that guests don't stay overnight for a period of time. I think 2 nights is the max. But all of our policies are on our website, and you can find all of those there. Yeah, that's the, yes.
Like you said yesterday, his first year, what's the likelihood that he will get a residence next year? So for second year and higher.
Yeah, great question. The question's around the likelihood of getting housing on campus in your second year and beyond. If we are able to get that building done when it's scheduled, then the likelihood is higher because it's 400 students in that. So to give you some perspective, for upper year housing, we originally had a wait list about 300 people when they first applied, but then as we get closer to September, that wait list has gone down. And then in terms of how many beds, without that new residence, we have about 400 beds for upper year students. We also have opportunities for upper year students that's outside of just applying through the regular program. They can also apply to work with us and be a residence don or work in residence. The benefit of that is that they get an incredible experience and we train them and they get all these amazing skills. We also pay for them to live in residence, so that's a nice financial piece. So something for them to think about. Those applications to work in residence, to be a residence don or to be a residence education facilitator, those come out usually at the end of December or so, and we publicize that everywhere. So that's an option for folks who want to consider that. Yeah.
Just clarification on guests. So one of our sons, younger but still legal age brother, comes to visit for like a long weekend.
Yeah, the question is about guests and visiting for a long weekend. That's totally fine. What our residence dons do in their first week is they'll go to every suite. So if you're an apartment style or a townhouse, it's everyone in that house or everyone in that suite. And if you're an OPH, it's between the two folks who share the bathroom. And we develop a roommate agreement that's already standardized, and we get the don to go through it with them. And one of the things is guests and saying like, okay, how are you navigating guests in this apartment? How are you guys going to notify when someone's coming over? What does that look like? Just to set some expectations. But that would be totally fine. I'm going to jump off that question because I sometimes get a question from parents and saying, can I stay overnight tonight with my son or daughter? The answer is no. We love that you're here, but we don't want you to stay with them overnight in their residence room because it's really important that they get the experience that they should get going off into university, and their roommates also get that experience. We have lots of hotels that we can recommend you to, but please don't stay with your student tonight over the weekend. Yes.
What's the criteria for allocating residents in the upper levels? Is it like a first come, first serve? Is it like a lottery system?
Yeah, the question is about upper year residents again. The way that we do it is a lottery system. So we have an application deadline and we have a certain amount of beds, and we take a lottery, and the first 400 or so get a space, and then everyone gets put on a wait list with a numbered wait list. So if you are 1, that means you're next to get a spot. If you're 299, you're 299 in line. Yes.
Oh, and question, my son has a Saturday class. Yeah, so how's the like Saturday class with holiday, they have to move out? So he finished that Saturday class or what? Because we couldn't get a.
So Saturdays, if they have a class on Saturday, that's absolutely fine. Students stay with us over the weekend. The only time that students are required to move out is over the holiday break, so when the university closes. But on a weekend, most students stay with us over the weekend. Some students choose to go home if they want to, but residence operates the same way over the weekend as it would during the week.
Say, okay, Thanksgiving, for example. Will he have off that Saturday too, or just the Monday?
So question about Thanksgiving or about major holidays, all of the university class schedule is all already online with all of the dates of the statutory holidays and what the makeup dates would be. So that's all online. For us, we wouldn't ask students to move out over the holiday break for Thanksgiving or anything like that.
Because it seemed like when they talked about the holiday breaks, they only talked Monday through Friday. They didn't address if they have Saturday classes. When are on the front end, tail end?
There are now more Saturday classes, so there should be information on that, but maybe we can talk after. I can help you out with that for sure.
Thank you.
So if you're a member of the committee of resident staff,
Yes.
the upper years, is it a priority to serve?
So the question is, if you get priority for upper year housing, if you are a resident staff member, the answer is yes. Anyone who is a resident staff member is guaranteed housing. Yes. The compensation for the staff is different though, depending on the position. But we compensate them very, very well. Yes, sir. Sorry, my hearing is not very good. That's okay.
I just want to know, like, whoever is the resident and has as part of that food plan,
The food plan?
Yeah, so is there any designated space where he has to go, and is there any specific timing only he has to?
Great question. The question is about meal plan. Meal plan, when you can use the meal plan, where you can use the meal plan. At UTM, with their meal plan, they can use any food outlet on campus. So not just Coleman Commons, which is our main residence outlet, which is in Oscar Peterson Hall. That's where a lot of our students get their meals. But let's say you have a class in here and it's lunchtime. You don't have to go all the way back to your residence to get your lunch. You can just go over there to Subway and use your meal plan. Same way.
And is that work for going to the campus?
The St. George campus downtown. That meal plan only applies to this campus. It only applies to this campus, yeah.
So on the continuing that question of meal plan, so is it like a debit card wherein you prepaid the amount which is in the meal plan?
Yep.
Keep on swiping and your amount goes down, or it's like an a la carte menu wherein
Yeah.
you have predetermined places to go?
So the meal plan is not an all-you-care-to-eat meal plan like some universities where you swipe in and you can take anything you want. You pay for what you pick up and what you take. So it's if you get an apple, you pay for an apple, and you can kind of go in and out as many times as you want because you're just paying for those items. And it's a declining balance meal plan. So you will add a meal plan. You've already added a meal plan because all students are required to have meal plans in residence. And that's for us to ensure that students have access to food. That's where that comes from, that requirement. But you can decide what plan, you've already decided what plan they're going to get, and that balance declines over time. You can always add more money just online. You can do that very easily. And then any sort of balance that's at the end of that meal plan, not the flex dollars, but the actual meal plan can get transferred over to the next year.
Is that the value, it's like a probability value you decided, it's like $15,000, for example?
Yeah, it's an estimate of usage of students in the past. My department doesn't manage the meal plan though. That's a different department, but that's how they do it is they just kind of average it out how much people typically eat. In the blue?
Yeah, looking at. Great resource. What happens second year?
We do have one upper year living learning community. It's a pre-med living learning community for students who are interested in going to medical school. Because our population for upper years is pretty low, that's the only living learning community we have as of this time. We want to add more, but that's what we have to.
Second year students participate in the events that happen around the living learning community?
They cannot. They're only they can only be in that living. If they're in that living learning community, they can. But there's lots of other programs that we can get them in as well. Yeah. Yes.
For students who want to cook in their kitchen, where do they usually go to buy groceries? I know there's a lot of places on campus, but if they don't have a car, is there a place that most students go to that they can walk to, or is there?
Great question. So the question was about groceries. If you have access to a kitchen, if you're in a suite style, where do you get those groceries? You can get some small items in Coleman Commons, which is in Oscar Peterson Hall, where they get their food, like milk or fruit or that sort of thing, eggs. But if they want a bit more groceries, a lot of our students tend to go to the what's it called? South Mall. Yeah. South Common, thank you. Thank you, my Mississauga people helping me out. South Common Mall, which has a Walmart and No Frills, and there is a bus that they can just take there from campus. All the buses are just in that bus loop right by Oscar Peterson Hall, and all students have a bus pass. So a lot of students just take that bus, it goes directly there, grab their groceries and come home. It's pretty simple, but nothing walking distance. This campus is pretty secluded in where it's located. There's a lot of beautiful homes around us, but there's not a lot of things to do around us. So most students take a bus to go somewhere. But also this campus is incredibly safe. I've worked in many universities. This is the safest campus I've ever worked at. And part of that is just because how secluded we are. So we're quite lucky there.
Yeah, if student buy any online purchase that's like big items,
Yep.
do they send directly to their residents?
Yeah, the question's about packages and mail. So in our resident services desk, we manage all of that. So if your student picks up buys something from Amazon or something online, they can get it shipped to that desk, and it works as like a concierge. We'll accept the package, we'll notify the student that we have the package, and they come pick it up from us. We process about 60,000 packages a year in residence, so we're quite familiar with Amazon packages. If you want to send your student something, perhaps, and you want to send them a little care package, you can just Google UTM residence address, and on our website, we'll show you exactly what to put on that package so they make sure that they get it. It'll come to our resident services desk, we notify them, and they come pick it up.
So to a centralized resident?
It's a centralized resident service desk, yeah. Food orders is different though, so if they order like Uber Eats or something, we don't accept that. They have to meet the driver at the door. We don't allow delivery drivers to go upstairs into residence. They'll have to meet them, but packages is at the desk.
About letters.
Letters, we also hold letter mail as well, so if you send a letter mail through Canada Post, they'll also receive it.
Can't receive it directly at their door.
They wouldn't receive it directly at their dorm, they'd have to come pick it up at the resident services desk.
Anything from bank, from anywhere, is all centralized?
For me,
Any mails from bank or anything is all centralized?
any mail that comes to residents is centralized through our desk. Mail that comes through campus is a different matter if it's an academic unit. But anything in residence comes to our resident services desk. That's right. Question here?
Your boss and
So when they checked in, on their key envelope, it'll show their PO box. So that's the number that you want to write. They can also go to the resident services desk if they don't know it or they lost it, and we can provide that for them. We put it on their move-in package, so it should be there.
But that's the shipping address?
In the shipping address, it says PO box and it has the shipping address, yeah, as well.
So if you're applying for the Ontario card, you should put the PO box number and then the residence building and then the address.
Yeah, but make sure you're following the guideline that we have on our website on the mailing address. So if you're using that, you'll be fine.
And one more question on the locker rentals. So if you have a lot of suitcases in your and you're not able to fit in the room, there is locker rental for on the house.
We don't provide any storage for students outside of their residence rooms. Most of our residence rooms have lots of storage, including, especially our townhouses have lots of storage. But we don't provide any storage for students. That also means that if you have a resident or a student who came into residence and they're like, I don't really want this chair here, I don't really like it. Can you take it out and move it for me? The answer is no, we have nowhere to put it. So you gotta live with the chair and enjoy it or figure it out. But we can't store things for students, unfortunately. We don't have the capacity. We do have some contacts on storage over the summer. So if students want to store over the summer, we do share contacts with companies who do that, specifically for residences, but we don't have that here at UTM. In the back. Sorry. A bike? Yeah, so we have lots of space for bikes on campus. We don't have bike storage in residence though, so they can park outside. I will encourage your student to bring their bikes, but most of our resident students actually don't bring bikes because campus is small and so they don't really need them. But if they want to bring them, absolutely they can, but its storage is outside. I'm just cognizant of time, so I'm going to pause the questions here so I can let the wonderful folks from the International Education Center give you their session. What I will say is I'm going to be just outside here, so if you have any other questions or comments or any concerns whatsoever, I'd be happy to answer them. And the last thing I'll say is my team and I take the responsibility of housing your students very, very seriously. And while you came into campus, you'll see that we're having a lot of fun and we're jumping up and down. That's all part of this, but we do take this responsibility very seriously. And we do care very, very deeply about the students who live with us. And so I want you to know that when you leave today, that you're leaving your student with what I think is the best resident system in Canada and the best staff that we could possibly hire. So thank you for entrusting us with your students. I promise that we will take great care of them and they'll leave residence to pursue whatever they want to pursue next. So thank you for your time and thank you for all your patience on move-in day and have a good rest of your weekend.